Hitting Challenger may seem like a dream for some, but for others, it just comes naturally. It was never a question whether they would make it, only when. You might be watching this video thinking you might never ever reach Diamond, but there's always hope. Like anything in life, if you put your mind to it and actively grind it out, you can achieve your goals. League of Legends is a video game, it's a hard one at that, but you'll be surprised how easy it is to snowball your fundamentals into a steady form deserving of the Challenger rank. Now before we get started, our question of the day is, what was your first season ending rank and how far have you climbed since then? Let us know in the comments, we want to hear your journeys. For me, I started off as Silver in my very first season, and then I ended up going to Platinum the next one, and then I was Diamond ever since, with a peak in Masters. So it definitely climbed a lot, but had to apply myself. Let us know your answers in the comments below. We want to hear all about your journeys. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. Knowing is half the battle, and that doesn't suddenly change when it comes to League of Legends. If you know everything that you need to know, but you're not quite executing on it yet, that's actually a pretty good sign that you'll reach Challenger. Whether you're fighting your inner demons to avoid greedy plays, or simply messing up that insec as Lee Sin, things just aren't coming together yet for you. More than mechanics, it's important to keep pressure in mind and knowing when to make plays. Do you remember that overextending Yasuo top, asking your team to do something after getting 4-manned over and over again? Yeah. You don't want to be that guy. Instead, look at the enemy team's options and be more patient as your team sets up counterplays when you put on pressure. Reviewing situations like this will grant you the tools to address them properly in the future, only helping in your climb to Challenger. It might seem like work at first, but eventually it will all be second nature to you. There are only two ways to view this concept: at the micro level, which encompasses mechanics, and then the macro level, which encompasses wider concepts like map movement. When it comes to the micro level, you're often thinking about what your opponent will want to do at any given time, in both the lane and the team fights. A general lane example would be something like this. You're laning against a Zed and you know he wants to throw out his Living Shadow and trade with you. Instead of walking into his effective range, you try to stay just out of it and you bait his abilities, giving you a cooldown advantage for a few moments. A teamfight example could be centered around Baron or Dragon. If you're an AD carry and they have hard CC like Sejuani's ultimate or Blitzcrank's hook, keep those abilities in mind and be ready to flash. As long as you're thinking ahead of what your opponents want to do mechanically, you will always be ready to play out and win the scenario. Now let's get a little deeper here with the macro perspective. If you know the enemy team wants to set up for Baron and you have priority over the map, look to push down the mid lane and move into the river to establish vision control. With that vision control, you can just wait until the enemy walks in to take a free pick. At that point, you can either take an easy 5v4 team fight or burn the Baron if the enemy does back off completely. Using your tempo advantage to quickly get onto the map is a very easy way to take control of games. Here's another straightforward one for all of you Challenger hopefuls. If you're playing the game every day, keeping up with all of its developments should come naturally, but we're still happy to break it down for you. In keeping up with the meta, you want to know which champions are the flavor of the month, popular rune setups, optimal build paths, and general counters to your champion pool. Whether it's browsing Reddit, watching streams, or binging ProGuides videos, it's important to keep up with the game in any way that you can. The game is always changing and you need to keep changing with it. Remember that example earlier about anticipating your opponent's actions? This one slightly ties into that. The book of League of Legends has 4 steps though, and they generally assume that you're winning. Step 1, push and wait for the enemy team to respond and clear the wave. Step 2, place vision and sweep vision. Step 3, if you couldn't make any plays while placing vision, continue to push out minion waves and defend the vision you placed earlier. Step 4, execute any play of your choice, whether it's Dragon, Baron, brush camping, or sieging down a lane. These 4 steps can be applied to any individual player or the team at large. Once you've gotten the setup, it all comes down to selecting advantageous fights or objective kills with a turn or burn in mind. Once you start getting good at the fundamentals and learn how to execute on your plays, continue looking for ways to improve your game. A foundation is great, but it needs to be built upon if it's ever going to reach new heights. Much like building up a skyscraper, you rinse and repeat the same process as you climb to the top, making adjustments along the way for the change in altitude, or in your case, the changes in elo. By following this logic over and over again, you'll be sure to find your way to climb to the top eventually. You don't need to bend over backwards to pick the right champion if you're not comfortable with it, but you always want to keep both compositions in mind. In Champion Select, be sure to always ban a champion that you don't want to play against. And from that point, if you're lower in the draft order, keep a very keen eye on what champions your team and their team are picking. Select a champion that can round out the composition and potentially counter what picks the enemy has going on. Let's say your team somehow picked 4 AD champions and you're the last pick top lane. You'll probably need to pick a top laner that falls under these conditions. 1. Ability power based. You want to balance your team composition's damage spread. 2. Has an even or better matchup against the opposing top laner. Being at a disadvantage always makes pressure more difficult to acquire. And condition number 3, which is the most important, is that a champion that you are comfortable with playing. We said this before, but optimal picks are only optimal picks if you know what you're doing. Being flexible during champion select and comfortable in different styles of champions will greatly aid you in your climb to challenger. Being flexible is a process though, so try to take it just one champion at a time. This is a mechanical one, and there's a dash of knowledge thrown on top. Maximizing damage output is extremely key to every champion in League of Legends. Almost every champion has an ability that can be used in conjunction with an auto attack. So figuring that out and applying it to different situations will help you win more duels and trades in the long run. Let's say you're a level 1 Varus and you've just walked to lane. If the enemy support walks up to Targon's a minion, you should take advantage of this opportunity by auto-attacking the support and using Hail of Arrows to tack on some extra damage. One player may have either auto-attacked or another may have only used Hail of Arrows. Both players are failing to maximize a damage opportunity. In Asia, players would say this is damage that is forever lost. Basically, any damage you give up is damage that you're not going to get back. Everyone on the planet has seen Faker's famous Zed outplay against Ryu and attempted to do something half as stylish in their own games. But that's the peak of League of Legends for a reason. Let's be real. There are many things that you have to learn before achieving something anywhere near that cool. Faker is the god of League of Legends, but even he worked on his fundamentals before becoming a 3-time world champion. We can talk about fundamentals all day, but here's a few that you should always be working on. CSing, trading, positioning, basic champion usage, playing around enemy abilities, general understanding of push vision and push execute, timing summoner cooldowns and playing around them appropriately. And that's not even half of it. We could go on all day, but that might be better suited for a future video. You've heard all of these, but be honest and ask yourself, are you doing all these yourself, or at the bare minimum, doing them better than your opponents? If you are, you're on the route to learning more advanced concepts as you propel your gameplay up the ranks. If you somehow manage to always win lane, either on your own or with jungle pressure, keep in mind that there is always a chance you will lose those games anyway. Millions of factors can play into the end result of a game, whether the other side of the map was punished due to your success, or you failed to execute on your win condition properly. Winning lane every game is a great start, and losing afterwards definitely stings. But don't feel down. Follow this quote: you win or you learn. Ranked is not a zero-sum game. After team compositions are built, you can start thinking about what your champions do and what the enemy champions want to do in response. This concept ties back to anticipating what your enemy will do and reacting, but this point will focus entirely on yourself. Push vision, push execute still comes into play, but the execution is basically the win condition that your team wants to play toward. For example, let's say that you have champions like Caitlyn or Tristana on your team. Your optimal execution play is probably centered around setting up vision and 5-man sieging towers with your range advantage. Maybe your team has a super fed Fiora that can easily 1v2 in the side lane. If that's the case, you want to push up and set up vision in anticipation of the eventual numbers advantage from the enemy team responding to that Fiora. While Fiora does Fiora things, smacking towers and killing people, you want to threaten Baron to force a reaction out of your opponent. If they don't react, Fiora will take an easy kill. And if they do react, then your team takes an easy Baron, or an easy team fight with a numbers advantage. There's always a reaction to everything. It's up to you to pick the right one on a game-to-game basis. This one is a bit corny, but please stay with me, because everything starts between the ears. If you don't believe that you can reach Challenger, how are you ever going to do so? You might feel that Challenger is galaxies away from Bronze and Silver, but that isn't quite true. Everyone started somewhere to get where they are today. Once you believe in yourself, you can start to take the steps to improve and become the Challenger player that we know you can be someday. And if you're having a harder time believing in yourself, our coaches will always be there to help you get to that point in confidence. Even if you don't believe in yourself, they will. Don't forget to check out our incredible coaches like Saskio, who's conveniently linked in the bottom of the description. But that concludes our video for today. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. If you guys want more content to help you improve, check out ProGuides.com, where we've teamed up with pro players to create guides designed to take your game to the next level. Also keep an eye on our YouTube channel, where we're constantly uploading new content like this. Now good luck on the Rift, and we'll see you all next time.